welcome to Northshore Online.
Yeah, welcome. We are so excited to be spending some time with you guys here today. My name is Stephen Bolt.
I'm Samantha Harmon. Yeah, just welcome. Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
4 days until Christmas Eve.
I debated on whether to wear the hat or not because I was like, it looks kind of ridiculous. Someone told me that my hair looked bad when I wasn't wearing it, so that also went into this decision. But I was like, we really only have like four more days to wear a hat with reindeer antlers on it. So a combination of bad hair and 4 days has led.
That's okay. I love it. We obviously have a special guest this morning, Steven.
Hi, Brandon.
Hello.
I wish I could just like
attach.
keep
playing this?
Yeah,
This
just
whole
keep
time
it
game?
rolling. I wish I could attach that to the back of my car and just like tow him around with me.
That's
that
weird.
would be so fun.
It's nice though.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was gonna say, this reminds me, what's that movie, The Truman Show, where someone just like plays the emotion of that would be what that
That's true.
Anyway,
Is it?
what are we doing here today?
Well, Merry Christmas to everyone.
Yes.
We're celebrating Christmas. 4 more days till Christmas Eve, obviously. And we thought we'd have Brandon come because tonight on our campus, we are having Christmas carols in the parking lot.
Yep.
Under a big tent.
Yes, the big top.
We're really excited.
Yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun. And with all this information Christmas, we've got the caroling coming up, we've got our Christmas Eve services,
Yes.
a few other things. All that's available northshore.church/Christmas. And there's still some spots you can jump on there. If there's a wait list, jump on the wait list. We'll let you know as those spots become available. But we have 4 different times tonight at 4 and 6.
4
Thank
and
you.
6. Yep.
And then also tomorrow at 4 and 6, Monday at 4 and 6. So yeah, jump on there, northshore.church/Christmas, and find some information on
Yeah,
that.
and to get us all ready, to get us even more in the Christmas spirit, we asked Brandon to come and play a little game of Finish That Christmas Carol with us. So Brandon,
Oh, transition. The energy has changed. You sense it.
something has shifted.
Something has shifted. It is now game time.
Yep.
So I'm going to sing a little bit of a Christmas carol, and then
Okay.
both of you have to immediately, without hesitation,
Ooh, I like it.
sing the next part.
Cool.
So you got to get the lyrics right. You think you can do it?
Sing.
Oh, I'm excited for that.
Nice. So I've heard both of you sing. You're going to
Oh,
do
so
great.
good.
Probably. All right. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. Your turn.
Well, fields and...
I can't
Very
sing it. I'm sorry.
Was it wow?
That's the one, definitely. It's definitely.
Well, fields and floods.
Rocks, hills, and plains.
Repeat the sounding joy. There it
Repeat
is.
the sounding
Wow, that was
joy.
very just all 3 of us worked together on that. I appreciate it.
If I have to worry about getting the lyrics and singing well, it's not
I
coming
think
out.
maybe for the next one, I'll get the lyrics and then Sam can sing it for us. I think that's the.
All right. Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake at the sight.
He's doing a really good job of tricking us.
What are the, oh gosh.
One more time.
Shepherds quake at the sight.
Silent night, holy night, shepherds quake.
Dude, I couldn't even.
Is it-
Some things.
Glory, is glory the next word?
What?
Glory is part of the next word.
Glorious
Oh, glorious streams.
from heaven above.
Afar.
Afar.
I'm gonna give that a
Okay.
pass.
Thank you.
It's like about a 60%.
Dashing through the snow on a one-horse open sleigh. O'er the fields we go, laughing all the way. Ha ha ha.
Bells on bobtails ring.
Making spirits bright.
Good.
What fun it is to ride and sing a sleighing song tonight.
Good job.
Oh, okay. We'll finish that tonight though, probably.
Right?
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure. Okay, one
Pause
more.
on that.
Okay, one more.
Yeah.
more?
One more. Yeah.
Hail the heaven-born Prince of Peace. Hail the Son of Righteousness.
Are you serious?
Light and life to all he brings.
Next.
Something in
Light
coattails.
and life to all he brings.
Risen, something
Risen.
about his
Wings?
wings.
Risen with
Joy.
Something in his
With
wings.
light,
Risen
life, glory.
I don't know it.
Healing.
Healing.
That was what I was going to say next.
Really, I bet it was.
I bet.
Wow.
That's
Nice job.
awesome.
That's a solid A-, guys.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Brandon.
Good
Well,
work.
that was a very generous grade of you.
Good work. Proud of you
So
both.
thank you.
You want me to keep playing?
Yeah, go ahead and just
Okay.
we're gonna take him back a little bit to look at the series we've been in. If you guys have been with us for the last few weeks, we've been in a series called "It Would Take a Miracle."
Yes, so good.
Yeah, seriously, some incredible weeks. And before we jump on and get into the service and talk about what we got coming up, we wanted to take you guys back to last week and check out a little clip about the message. So check this out. And also, I'm sorry, Brandon, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. He won't be here after this, so thank you, Brandon.
Thank you,
Thanks
Brandon.
for having me.
See you tonight.
Enjoy this clip from last week.
You see, sometimes the miracle you need most is not what God can do for you, it's what God can do in you. And maybe you've been asking God for a miracle in your life. Cure this cancer, restore this relationship, heal this hurt, remove this regret. But maybe the miracle you need most is not the one He can do for you, it's the one He can do in you. Because you see, God can transform the person you are in the midst of whatever circumstances you're in. He can redeem your character. He can give you patience. He can build your courage. He can grow your faith. Because when you welcome Jesus into your life, when you give Him access to all of who you are, your transformed life is the miracle.
Well, as we said, that series, I've been getting so much out of it, looking at the miracles throughout Jesus' ministry and just ultimately leading up to Christmas, which is just such the ultimate miracle. And so, we're excited for that.
I know in the chat the last couple of weeks, it's been really cool to hear people say, like, this is exactly what I needed to hear today. Every single week we're saying that, and really looking forward to Wolfgang's message today. But if you're just joining us, welcome to Northshore Online. I'm Samantha, this is Steven. And if you're just joining us for the first time today, please text us at Northshore to 97,000. We would love to meet you, connect with you. It has been so amazing to be able to call people who have just joined us for the first time and get to meet you and connect with you and help you get connected here at Northshore. It's been fantastic. But again, 4 days.
4 days.
Until Christmas Eve.
So this is a quick question. How would you rate yourself as a gift giver, 1 to 10?
I love giving gifts.
Okay.
I mean, I'm gonna give myself a solid 9.
Okay. Well, we have many gifts for you all. What a transition, man.
That was great.
So good, unplanned. But yeah, tonight, Sunday night, and then Monday tomorrow, we have a couple of caroling experiences coming up. Again, all this information is available on northshore.church/Christmas, as well as our Christmas Eve services, which are on Christmas Eve, 24th, at 2, 4, and 6 p.m. You're going to want to make sure, put it in your calendars, be there right at 2, 4, or 6. It's not going to be available later on in the day, so you're going to want to, make sure you're there for 2, 4, or 6.
That's right. Join us live.
Yes, join us
So
live.
excited.
Yeah, it's such a great opportunity to invite neighbors, friends. We've got a couple of ways.
If you want to text my invite to 97,000, we will text you a digital invite that you can send out to friends and family. Like, it has never been easier.
Seriously.
Ever to invite somebody to Christmas Eve in Northshore.
Christmas is coming home.
That's right.
It's coming home.
That's right. Well, the team is just about to get started. We are so excited that you're here. Welcome to Northshore Online and Merry Christmas.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us this Christmas season. My name's Brandon. I'm on the team here. Want to invite you to sing a few songs with us today. So let's do that together. Joy to the world. Joy to the world. The Lord is come. Let earth receive her King. Let every heart prepare him room. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. And heaven and nature sing. Joy to the earth, the Savior reigns. Let men their songs employ. While fields and floods, rocks, hills, and plains repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy. Repeat the sounding joy to the world. All the earth sings. Joy to the world. Joy to the world. All the earth sings. Joy to the world. He rules the world with truth and grace, and makes the nations prove the glories of his righteousness, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love, and wonders of his love. Joy to the world. Sing that with us. Joy to the world. Joy to the world. All the earth sings. Joy to the world. Joy to the world. All the earth sings. Joy to the world. Joy to the
Hey everybody, if you're just joining us, welcome to Northshore. My name is Scotty Scruggs, I'm the pastor here, and I am so glad you're joining us wherever you're joining us from. So Christmas Eve is just a few days away, can you believe it? And no matter where in the world you are on Christmas Eve, you can be with us right here online at 2, 4, or 6 p.m. And remember, the services won't be on demand because we want to celebrate together like we normally do that day. So pick a time for you and your friends or family, and I promise you are not going to want to miss what we have planned for you. But the main thing I want to share with you before we jump into the message today is around giving. Now, if you've been at Northshore for some time, you know that the end of the calendar year is a critical time for us in terms of financial generosity. In fact, 20% of our annual budget comes from giving in the month of December alone. Now, the good news is our giving is at the same place it was this time last year, which means giving has remained strong in spite of all the challenges we've faced this year. But because so many of you give here at the end of the calendar year, we still need around $900,000 to finish the year on track, which I know can sound like a lot, but every year you prove to be so generous with this church. And that's why we're able to be so generous with others. In fact, over the past year alone, more than $1 million has been given to ministry partners, mission organizations, and people in need here and around the world, and we hope to be even more generous in 2021. To encourage you, Nina and I have decided to make a special end-of-the-year gift over and above our regular giving, and I want to encourage you to consider doing the same. And for those of you who wait until the end of the year to give, now is the time. And to all of you who have faithfully given your resources, your time, your prayers, your love to the mission of this church, I just want to say thank you. 2020 may have been kind of a bumpy year, but I believe it's been the most impactful year of ministry we have ever had, and that's because of you. And speaking of impact, the message you're about to hear from Wolfgang is just remarkable. So let's get ready for God to speak to each of us through His Word. Okay, Wolfgang, take it away.
Well, it is so great to see you. Thank you for being with us today. You know, I've been a pastor for about 25 years, and over those years, I've done a couple hundred weddings. And I'll let you in on a little pastor secret. A lot of pastors don't like doing weddings all that much. In fact, I know many who'd rather do a funeral than a wedding any day of the week. But not for me. I love weddings, and I've done lots of them over the years. And most of them have been wonderful. They went off without a hitch. But over those weddings, there have been some less than wonderful moments. I've told some of you about some of these before. There was the time I was about to have the bride and groom exchange rings, and I asked the best man for the rings. He very calmly looked at me and whispered that he had forgotten them in the back. So rather than make a deal out of it, the bride and groom just pretended to put on rings, and it still worked out. Nobody even noticed. There was the time I was standing next to the groom, waiting for the bride who was on her way down the aisle, when I noticed that he was starting to sway gently back and forth. And just before he fell over, I grabbed his arm and was able to sort of prop him up. He pulled himself together and made it through the rest of the ceremony. Nobody even noticed. I've seen brides holding their dresses together with staples. I've seen restless ring bearers have accidents in their adorable little tuxedos. You just never know what's going to happen. But there was one wedding that I will never forget. And I know I've told some of you this story before. It was an outdoor wedding up in the mountains. The setting could not have been more spectacular. But it was an evening wedding in the fall. So by the time the ceremony started, it was almost completely dark outside. Now, fortunately, they had some string lights sort of decorating the altar area, so we could see a little, but most people could barely see it all. Well, the music started, the guests got settled in, the bridesmaids started coming down the aisle, and of course, they looked great, sort of faking their best smile, not letting on that they thought the dresses were horrible and overpriced. You know, the things bridesmaids are thinking about at weddings. And then came the bride. She and her father were at the end of the aisle, and the wedding march began. Everyone stood, turned to look at her. And as she was making her way down this aisle, this is the absolute truth, a black cat ran across the aisle in front of her. Now, of course, I'm not a superstitious person, but I couldn't help but think about it, right? I mean, here's the thing. If anybody else saw it, they didn't say anything. Most people were so focused on the bride they didn't seem to notice, but there it ran. A few years later, I told that story in a message, and that couple happened to be there. And they came down afterward, and the bride said to me that she saw it too, but no one else had ever said anything about it. So we just sort of laughed. We made it our little secret. Of course, until now, when I've told all of you. And for those who are wondering, last I heard, they are still happily married. But what a way to kick things off. Well, today, I want to talk about an awkward wedding moment that happened at a wedding that Jesus was attending. And what makes this wedding so memorable is that it was at this wedding that Jesus performed his very first miracle. You know, this month, we've been talking about miracles. And we're not just talking about the miracles surrounding the birth that we'll be celebrating later this week, the miraculous circumstances surrounding his conception, the angelic announcement of his arrival, the supernatural signs of his birth. And by the way, I am so excited about our Christmas Eve services coming up Thursday. I hope you'll invite a friend. You will not want to miss it. Join us online. But through this month, we've been talking about the fact that Jesus didn't stay that little baby in a manger. He grew up, he taught, and he performed miracles. We've been talking about those miracles. And as we've learned about these miracles, we've also been learning about some of the miracles that Jesus still wants to perform in our lives. Because many of us are praying for miracles in big and small ways. We long for God to intervene in our lives, to help us with some struggle, to provide for some need, whatever it may be. We want God to step into our circumstances and perform a miracle. Well, we see one of those miracles at this wedding. And at first glance, it seems like kind of a strange miracle. But I think it teaches us a lot about what it looks like to experience miracles in our lives. And it's described in John chapter 2, verses 1 through 11. So if you have a Bible or a Bible app perhaps, you can follow along. And of course, I'll be putting the verses up on the screen here so you can read them along as well. Here's what it says. John chapter 2, verse 1. It says, "On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there," talking about Mary, of course. "And Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding." So Jesus, along with his mom, Mary, a few of his disciples, they're there at this celebration. And to understand what's happening in this story, you need to understand a little something about weddings in that day. So we sort of picture white dresses and flowers and maybe a little music. This was nothing like that. This was a celebration unlike anything most of us have ever seen. And these were not COVID-compliant weddings. I've done a few of those with just a small group of friends in the backyard over these last several months. This was not that. These would never have been limited to a handful of people. And they didn't just take a few hours in the afternoon or evening like a wedding might in our day. These wedding celebrations frequently lasted an entire week. And it wasn't just a handful of friends and family. This would be the main event in town. This would be the most important day in most people's lives. The biggest, most joyful celebration they would ever see, let alone experience. So they would pull out all the stops to celebrate this occasion. And as they're celebrating, suddenly there's an awkward realization. Look at verse 3. "When the wine was gone, Jesus' mother said to him, 'They have no more wine.'" The wine's gone. And who knows what happened? Maybe more people came than expected. Maybe they underestimated the amount they would need. Maybe someone messed up the order. Who knows? But running out of wine would have been a serious embarrassment to this bride and groom, as well as to their families. See, this is a shame-honor culture. So to be embarrassed like this in front of the whole village would be something people would never forget. It'd be humiliating for the family. Certainly get things off to a bad start for the bride and groom. I mean, this makes a black cat running across the aisle look like child's play. This is a big deal. And Mary brings the problem to Jesus. Now, it's hard to know exactly what's in Mary's mind here, of course, but it's pretty clear she's expecting, or at least hoping, that Jesus will do something about it. So look at what happens. John chapter 2, verse 4. Jesus answers her, "Woman, why do you involve me?" Let's stop here for a second. Because those of you who are moms, maybe you read that and you think, hang on, huh? Is Jesus getting mouthy with his mom here? For example, at your house, what if tonight you went to your teenage son and you told him to clean up his room and he said to you, "Woman, why do you involve me?" That would probably not end well, at least it wouldn't at our house. But even though this sounds a little abrupt, maybe even a little rude, in this cultural context, this was not Jesus being disrespectful toward his mom. This was not him telling her to shut up and leave him alone. And he goes on. Here's what he says. He says, "Why do you involve me?" Jesus replied. "My hour has not yet come." What he's talking about here, there's so many layers to this story, so many little hints at the bigger picture of what Jesus' life and mission are all about. And this is one of them. Because through the rest of John, when Jesus talks about his hour or the hour coming, he's talking about his death, the hour of his death on a cross. So somewhere all the way back at the beginning of his ministry, somehow Jesus already had in his mind the picture of what his life was all about. He knows an hour is coming when he will die, when he will lay down his life for others. Later he says, it's why he came. He came to seek and to save what was lost. Jesus knows he's on a rescue mission, that he's here to bridge the gap between God and people, to wipe away their guilt and their shame. And it's almost like Jesus is looking past this moment. Here's this couple who's facing shame in their lives, and his mind seems to go beyond a wedding faux pas to the deeper shame in all of us that he's going to deal with on the cross. But look at this. Mary doesn't even seem to acknowledge what he says. Verse 5, his mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now, this is one of those verses that I have underlined and circled and starred in my Bible. Do whatever he tells you. Facing a problem, needing a miracle, do whatever he says. That's the best advice I could give you today about Jesus. Do whatever he tells you. That's Mary's instruction. This is the only time in all the Bible when Mary, the mother of Jesus, gives a command, and it's a simple one. Do whatever he tells you. Because she knows Jesus' heart. She knows his goodness, his kindness, his compassion. She's raised him. She remembers the things that the angels said at that first Christmas, the prophetic things that were said about him just after his birth. She knows he's special. So she doesn't need to give him instructions or tell him what the right thing to do is. She just trusts. And she says, you can trust him. Do whatever he says. And you can too. Now, apparently, when mom wants something, even the Son of God pays attention. Look at what happens in verse 6. Nearby stood 6 water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. Log that away, that's a big deal. Jesus said to the servants, "Fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. The servants do what Jesus says. They get these huge jars, which would have been normally used, especially at a celebration like this, for ceremonial washing before a meal. And they fill them up with what? With this. Water. Just average, run-of-the-mill water. You know, some people are kind of choosy about their water. They don't like to drink it straight from the tap. They prefer to drink water that's been filtered or purified somehow. Now, our fridge, maybe like yours, has one of those little filters in it and a little dispenser in the door where we can get cold, filtered water. That's usually good enough for me. That's where I go for water. But some people, that won't cut it. Their preference, bottled water. They'd rather pay for it for whatever reason. And there are different kinds, of course, of bottled water. Some people are happy with the cheap stuff, like this. This is just Kirkland brand water. It's the generic stuff that you just get at Costco, cheapest you can find. That's what we tend to have around here, frankly, in the fridges here at the church. Others choose to upgrade their water a bit, so they might go with the nicer stuff. Maybe something like Dasani, or this one, Aquafina, right? I don't know what makes it better. It's just more expensive, right? But for some, even that isn't enough, and so they upgrade even a little more. This is smart water. And I'll drink this from time to time just to feel intellectually superior to those around me. Don't forget, Scotty's a Stanford grad. I got to keep up however I can, right? Now, I don't really know what this does for me, but sometimes you just want to upgrade to the good stuff. And speaking of the good stuff, Here it is. Fiji, right? This right here is expensive bottled water. The back actually says that it came from Fiji. Now, I've never been to Fiji. Maybe someday I'll go there, although I doubt I'll be able to afford it if I keep buying this water. But somehow, looking at this little flower on the bottle convinces me that it is worth 2 or 3 or 5 times the price of the cheap stuff. But here's my point. All of this is just water. And if we were to take the labels off these bottles, we were to swap them out or do a blind taste test of all these bottles of water, I'm willing to bet almost none of us could taste a difference between the Kirkland and the premium Fiji. Now, we may have a few super tasters out there. From what I understand, there are actually water sommeliers in our world today, whatever that is. But at the end of the day, let's be honest, water's water. So Jesus, he tells the servants to take some ordinary water, fill the jars. Nothing special about it. But look what happens. John chapter 2, verse 8 says, "Then Jesus told them, 'Now draw some out and take it to the master of the banquet.' They did so, and the master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine." See, friends, this is water, but this is wine. And yes, it's real wine. Now, I don't know much about wine, but for those of you who do, you might know something about this. This is 2008 Toscana Solera from Montalcino, Italy. And this bottle, you know what it sells for retail? More than $700. Now, just so you know, church money was not used to purchase this wine, okay? Just be really clear. And this is not out of my own personal stash. I borrowed it from a friend who owns Rain City Wines in downtown Bothell. And when I went over there this week to borrow this from him, this wasn't actually even the most expensive bottle he has. In his cellar, catch this, he has a 1985 Magnum of Romani Conti by DRC. It's from the Burgundy region of France. That one bottle has an auction value, get this, of $30,000. Now, that's more money than some of us would ever pay for our car, right? Now, I didn't want to have to take out extra insurance policy for this message, so I settled for the relative bargain bottle at $700 to make this point. This water is very different from this. Everybody knows the difference. So in the story, the servants do what they're told. They fill up the jars. They take out a ladle to deliver it to the wedding coordinator. And for all they know, this is a practical joke, right? And you notice in the story, there's no indication exactly when this becomes this. Because it says they take a scoop over to the master of the banquet, who, as I said, is sort of a wedding coordinator and a caterer and an MC all wrapped up in one. And this guy, who had to be a little panicked since they'd run out of wine, he takes a sip from this ladle, and the water had been turned into wine. It's a miracle. Now, at this point, I want to kind of point out a few things I'm learning from this passage, and maybe they'll be helpful for you too. Here's the first. God can work miracles along the way. Catch this, because it would be so easy to just sort of blow by it or miss it. The miracle of water turning into wine, we don't know exactly when it happens. Somewhere between Jesus giving instructions, these people doing what Jesus said to do, the ladle being taken to the master of ceremonies, somewhere along the way, a miracle took place. It happened along the way. And what I've seen in my life and in the lives of so many other people is that a lot of miracles that happen in our lives happen along the way. Now, sometimes God does all of a sudden type miracles. We talked about one of those the very first week of this series, of Jesus raising that little boy from the dead. And sometimes those kinds of all of a sudden miracles happen. Suddenly the scans come back clear. The doctors can't explain it. Suddenly, sometimes that couple who's told they'll never have a child, they find out they're expecting. Sometimes that struggle or that addiction suddenly vanishes from the scene, and there's not even a craving. I've seen it. Maybe you have too. But sometimes miracles aren't these all of a sudden moments. Sometimes they happen along the way. You're not sure where it happened exactly, but suddenly you realize something changed. Maybe it's in a relationship. Maybe you've been praying for your marriage or a dating relationship to get healthier. And you're praying that you'll stop fighting so much, that you'll get along. It's not easy. And sometimes you have to keep being faithful, keep following his instructions, keep doing what Jesus tells you to do. You remember, you can't change the other person. You can only lovingly influence them. So you focus on doing what Mary told them to do. Do whatever he says. You say to yourself, I'm going to choose to be kind. I'm going to choose to be loving. I'm going to choose to forgive. And somewhere along the way, you may find a miracle actually happens. Now, you may not log off from this service today and all of a sudden, all the warm fuzzies come back and your relationship is magically better. But along the way, you may find yourself a few years from now sitting together at the breakfast table, maybe drinking coffee, and you look across that table at your spouse and you think of all the things you've been through together, and it hits you. You know what? We're still in love. Hasn't been easy, but we made it. And it wasn't all of a sudden. It was just along the way. This became this. Or maybe it's financial. You're praying God will provide for you in your life. And I pray he does, of course. But until you win the lottery or inherit a fortune from some long-forgotten aunt, if you'll do what he says to do with your money, to be wise in how you handle it, get on a spending plan, learn to manage what he's given you, even learn to be generous as he calls us to do, you may find over time the miracle happens along the way. You may find he gives you more than you ever imagined. See, God can bring you hope along the way. He can bring you purpose along the way. God can lead you to sobriety along the way. He can use you to make a difference in the lives of other people along the way. He can heal what is broken along the way. You just have to do what he said to do, to be faithful, even when you're not sure anything is happening, even if you don't see the miracle yet. Now, some have been praying hard for a miracle, and all you see is a mess. It's okay. Keep walking with him. Keep going. And you might discover a miracle happens along the way. And it might not be a change in your circumstances. It might be something much deeper. Because some of the greatest miracles can be what God does in us, not just what God does for us. I've seen it so many times. A few years ago, I got to know a woman here at Northshore named Grace. She was an amazing lady, fun, energetic. Best of all, she had this deep, genuine love and faith in Jesus. And for years, Grace battled cancer. She went through treatment after treatment. She visited doctor after doctor, and she prayed that God would work a miracle. Lots of us prayed that. We prayed that God would work a miracle in her life. And then, after years of fighting and praying, Grace lost her battle with cancer, and she died. And I'll be honest, I don't understand why some miracles happen and some don't. Because I've watched many people who are faithful, who pray, who cry out, and it seems like they never get their miracle. And sometimes people will try to say, oh, it must be the person's fault. That sometimes somehow they don't have enough faith or something like that. I don't buy into that. I've seen overly simplistic answers like that do a lot of harm to people. That's not okay. I don't pretend to understand all this. But I'll tell you what I've seen. I've seen that while they may not get the miracle they were asking for, God did something inside them along the way. In the middle of their suffering and pain, God made something beautiful of their lives. It's what happened with Grace. Because along the way, God replaced her fear with peace. God turned her despair into joy. She was an inspiration to so many people. In fact, there were people so moved by her faith that they began a journey that brought them to a faith in Jesus as well. See, God may not have done the miracle for her, but he did a miracle in her. And her life touched so many others. And friends, in so many ways, that's what matters. Because we'll all shed these bodies one day. You think about it. Even the people Jesus healed in the Bible, they still died eventually. But when Jesus changes who we are, when he touches our souls, that's a miracle that lasts forever. And sometimes the greatest miracles aren't the ones he does for us, they're the ones he does in us. He turned the water of self-pity into the wine of joy. The water of worry and fear into the wine of hope. Those are miracles, friends. And sometimes they happen along the way. Another thing that grabbed me from this story is this: God can work miracles even in the little things. Here's what I mean. Miracles aren't just the big things. Sometimes they're the little things. Isn't it interesting that Jesus' very first miracle wasn't healing someone who couldn't walk or someone who couldn't see? The first miracle wasn't a big headline-grabbing kind of miracle. You might even call his first one sort of a non-essential miracle. A shortage of wine at a wedding? Doesn't seem like a big deal. Seems like a strange choice for a first miracle. But you see, that's how good God is. He cares about even the little things of life. There's no need he doesn't care about. No request too big and no request too small. And here's one more thing that hit me in studying through this story over these last few weeks. It's that God can provide more than you need or even imagine. See, at this wedding, Jesus doesn't just meet the need, he blows it out of the water. Look again at John chapter 2, this time in verse 9. It says, "The master of the banquet tasted the water that had been turned into wine. He did not realize where it had come from, though the servants who drew the water, they knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside, and he said, 'Everyone brings out the choice wine first, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink.'" Little side note, some of you just got a party tip from the ancient world. You can write that down. Not in this case, though. "You have saved," he says, "the best till now." See, what's so amazing about this isn't just that Jesus cares about what seems like a minor need. It's that he meets that need in such a lavish, abundant way. The wedding coordinator, he takes a sip from this ladle and he can't believe his taste buds. "It's the best," he says. "This isn't the box stuff you buy at the convenience store. You've been holding out on us, man. You pulled out some of the top shelf." And did you catch how much Jesus made? He didn't just make a glass of wine or one bottle of wine. You add up the size of those jars, and the text tells us Jesus created 120 gallons of wine, over 600 bottles of the good stuff. It's probably way more than was needed for this wedding. But Jesus intentionally produced the wine in abundance. He didn't just give them what they needed. He's generous. He blesses them more than they could even imagine. He takes what is lacking and he turns it into abundance. It's what he does, friends. He transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, the common into the valuable, water into wine. And just like he stepped in for this young couple, he covers our shame and he gives us more than we need, more than we deserve. Forgiveness, the hope of eternal life, God's Spirit working in us every day, a place to belong and contribute in his family. God can work miracles in our lives. As the Apostle Paul says in Ephesians 3:20, he can do more than we can ask or imagine. And friends, he wants to do the same for you. He wants to take your past and trade it for a new future. He wants to take your shame and transform it into joy. He wants to take your fear and transform it into hope. He can turn water into wine. And this isn't just about changing labels, just surface stuff. I mean, you switch the Fiji label for this Costco label, it's still only water. It will only ever be water. So trying to change a habit here or there, trying to be a better person or get your act together on your own, just by peeling off one label and slapping on another, that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Jesus' ability to make a fundamental change in us, an entirely new beginning. In fact, in the next chapter of John, he compares it to being born again. a new start. Because as incredible as the miracles are that we've been talking about in this series, the greatest miracle of all is a changed life, a forgiven past, a renewed purpose, an enduring peace, a rewritten future. Friends, Jesus is still working those miracles. And you notice when it happened. It happened when they admitted that they had no more wine of their own. They realized they couldn't fix this problem by themselves. And so they came to Jesus. And they said, we'll do whatever you say. And it was then that they experienced a miracle, a transformation. Our friends, you look at this story, you see Jesus converts water into wine, and he is still converting things today. He converts sinners to saints. He converts those who are broken to those who are beautiful in Christ. He takes those who are hopeless, fills them with hope. Takes people who are trapped in misery and give them meaning and purpose in their lives. He's still moving, friends, still converting. He takes what was lost and makes it found. Takes what was written off and makes it purposeful and powerful and precious. That's what he does. And he works the greatest miracle of all, a changed life. You look at the final verse in this story, verse 11. What Jesus did here in Cana of Galilee was the first of the signs through which he revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. See, these miracles aren't to wow us or impress us. They're signs along the way that point toward faith in God. That's the whole point. And John wrote this miracle down all those years ago with the hope that someday people like you and me would read of the things that Jesus did, hear about the way he works miracles, and come to believe in him just like they did. Now, you may be holding out for a miracle, but the greatest miracle is a relationship with the God behind the miracle. And the miracle he wants to do in you is greater than any miracle that he'll ever do for you. See, this very first miracle at this wedding celebration in Cana, it was a sort of hint of what was to come, pointing to the ultimate celebration that's described in Scripture by prophets like Isaiah all the way through the last book of the Bible in Revelation. It's referred to as the wedding feast of the Lamb. Again and again, the Bible uses this image of a party, a feast, a celebration that God has been planning from the beginning of time, when evil will finally be defeated once for all, when injustice and suffering will be no more, when things are finally made right, and when this miracle-working God and his people will finally be together forever. All because of what Jesus did for us on a cross. That will be a celebration unlike anything anyone has ever seen. And at that feast, there will be no shortage of wine or any other good thing. And friends, it will all be the good stuff. And here's the best news of all. You are invited. The good news is he's reserved a seat for you. Will you be there? Because this is a party you don't want to miss. And this invitation is yours for the asking. So I'd ask you, as you sit there right now, would you close your eyes with me? I want to pray. Let me invite you to pray with me in just a moment. But first, God, what a promise and what an offer. And I thank you for the along the way miracles that you continue to work in our lives. I thank you that you care about even the little stuff. And I thank you that when you step in, God, you meet needs in abundant, overwhelming ways. But most of all, God, I thank you for making it possible for ordinary people like us to be part of that extraordinary celebration that is coming. Thank you for your invitation to that great feast. And as some of you are sitting there right now, I want to ask you to do something. Because maybe your life's been about trying to fix yourself, trying to just swap out labels on your life, anything to try to be a little better. When Jesus wants to actually completely remake you. See, the miracle happened when the people admitted they couldn't fix it themselves, and they came to Jesus. And you can do that right now. And maybe you want to pray, Lord, work this miracle in my life. Not just a miracle for me, a miracle in me. I'm done with changing labels and surface kinds of things. I need your grace. I need your forgiveness. I need your transformation. And I want to be at that celebration, Lord. Thanks to the gift and sacrifice of Jesus, I want to be there. I'm in. Oh God, I thank you. I thank you that this week we'll celebrate the birth of Jesus. But we look forward to that day when we will finally celebrate together at the greatest feast anyone has ever seen. We long for that day, and we pray in the name of the one who makes it possible for us to be there, Jesus Christ. Amen.
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. And it's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs. So we pour out our praise to you only. Oh. You give life, you are love, you lowly face we sing. Great are you, Lord. We fix our eyes on you, God. Great are you, Lord.
Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. And if you made a decision to follow Jesus for the very first time, we are so excited for you. Please let us know. Send us a message on the website or let us know in the chat. We would love to connect with you.
Yeah, and we'll see so many of you guys tonight or tomorrow night at our caroling. Again, all this information, northshore.church/Christmas. And we'll see all of you Christmas Eve. 4 days, 2, 4, 6 p.m.
Yep.
Excited to see you guys there, and we'll see you right back here in a few days.